Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rise. We're back here at Loki Kia in super sunny Clearwater, Florida. And guess what? I have some changes to the smallest crossover SUV that Kia has. It's this vehicle right here. This is your updated, changed up, flipped around 2024 Kia Seltos. This particular one, believe it or not, is your entry trim. It's the Seltos S. But before we get into this front-wheel drive but maximum value price leader of a crossover, let's talk about what's going on here. Kia is really changing things up. They're putting more focus on their electrified vehicles that they're going to be bringing to market. The new EV9 is currently available, and of course the EV6, the Niro that has electrification, and some new models. But they still haven't forgotten about their bread and butter of their small size crossover SUVs. Now the Seltos came out back in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And good thing that they came out with it, because a lot of people were looking for that subcompact crossover SUV. So what does this compete against? It competes against the Hyundai Kona, the Honda CR-V, the Toyota Corolla Cross, the Nissan Kicks. It's all about that subcompact size. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you what the changes are, but I also want to talk about value, because I think you're going to be pleasantly impressed and surprised with this Seltos. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this 2024 Seltos and see, is it better than the competition like the Kona and in particular the Toyota Corolla Cross? Let's go ahead, let's dive in and find out. Right off the bat, this orange color. It's interesting because it's not like a sun-kissed orange. It's like a burnt orange, and depending on how much light it gets, it changes. And I really kind of like that about this vehicle. Let me know what you think about the color. Now at the front of the business, here's where we're gonna see some of the updates. New headlight housing and headlight arrangement on this Kia Seltos. So you can see how we have our projector beam, LED headlight, everything blacked out on the interior. You have your LED daytime running lamp, which actually comes and intersects into the tiger nose grille. The one thing though, you'll notice we have LED, actually not LED, old-fashioned Thomas Edison light bulbs. I'm gonna let that zonk slide, and the reason why is in particular we're talking about the base. This is a base S trim, and that's something that we always like to do here on Rady's Rides, not just show the top trims, but show the other ones as well. And this one actually has surprised me, and I'll show you. Dropping down, you do have a little bit of gloss black, but we have LED fog lamps. I can't believe on a base S trim we have LED fog lamps. Yes, you have some fake vent here, nothing too in your face. I'm gonna let that zonk slide as well, just because they gave us fog lamps. A lot of brands, even their top trims, don't have fog lamps anymore. Now, as we come across that tiger nose grille changed for 2024, like I pointed out, you have your daytime running lamps that intersect. I like the way they did this texture. It's like ridged in a very unique way. And if you think about it, Ruffles has ridges, so does this tiger nose grille. Bright aluminum style, both top and bottom, gloss black in the center, fully functional, which is awesome. And one thing that they did on the lower bumper area is they really kind of trimmed it up to give you a greater approach angle. Now this particular one isn't off-road-esque, but they do have an off-road spec. They call it the X Pro and X Line, which have a little bit more off-road capability, but it's nice just to kind of trim that out of the way, so when you're parking it, you're not gonna curb it on a bumper, curb your bumper or anything like that on a parking block. Bright silver along the whole bottom portion, and it does give it an interesting look. Now, as we rise up, of course, you're gonna have the Kia badge. I like the way it's nice and flat, super clean. Hood is gonna be the same as the 2020 model year example. And you know what? With the way that they did the dips on both sides, it still looks good. It actually matches everything that they changed. Now, as we come around the bend, they did make some changes on their wheels and tires. So here is your base wheel. Looks great. Aluminum wheel, not a hubcap, 17 inches in diameter. I like the metallic gunmetal gray finish. If this was bright silver, I think it would make this vehicle look more like a rental vehicle, but because it's gunmetal gray, it just gives it a nice little extra touch. If you're wondering, well, Joe, what about tires? 215 on the width, 55 series sidewall. And on this particular trim, I don't mind the flat black. Something that you should know about, on all the trims, you're gonna get flat black around the fender openings. But I'm glad on the base, it looks good. It'll look good on the higher trims. I just think the higher trims should be painted. Let me know how you feel about the flat black in the comment section. Now, as we rise up, you do actually get color matched mirror caps, which are nice. LED turn signals in the mirrors. I like the way they black out the A-pillar. Just kind of gives it a little bit extra sporty look. We have color matched door handles, the flat black along the bottom, and up top, they did a great job styling the roof rails. The silver with the flat black, and you'll notice how on the end portion here, as Steven comes on in, I like the way they have this part elevated. I feel like if you were tying down a kayak or something, this would be a good location to finish off your loop. Same thing with the trim. Look at how they flare it out, and then as Steven drops back, you'll notice how it's only along the bottom, and I like that. I like the way they didn't do the whole window surround with that silver. Now, this one is front wheel drive, but like I said, you can get all wheel drive. And when you get to the back, guess what? Just like up front, they made some changes. They restyled the taillights. Love the way they did. Full LED, turn signals and brake lights. And then they illuminated the center section and made the red come all the way across. Now, I know Steven is not a fan of this. Let me know if you're liking it on this Seltos. I don't mind it. I think it looks fine, but for some reason, Steven actually loses sleep. He loses sleep off this red in the center. Let me know if you're Camp Joe or Camp Steven on that reflector there. You do have an exposed wiper. I'm not zonking it, especially on this base trim. And I like the way they shaped this low roof spoiler. Very, very nicely done. And then working our way all the way down, just like up front, we have a little bit of gloss black. I like the way they bring the silver. And of course, the Seltos name, no reason to put S. I like the way it just says Seltos. If you get a higher trim, you're gonna have other badging, but on the base, we don't need to put an S. Just call it a Seltos. But why don't we go ahead, because technically, see what I did there? Seltos S, because there's an S already in the name Seltos. Ha-ha! But why don't we go ahead, let's pop the hood and talk about some of the things that's happening underneath it. All right, guys, we got the hood popped. You do have a prop rod, but pretty much every competitor in the subcompact crossover SUV class has a prop rod. Underneath the hood, you have two different engine choices. S, the base, gets a naturally aspirated engine. Let's talk about that. It is a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline four. It produces 146 horsepower, and it's mated to what Kia calls an IVT. Let's just call it for what it is. It's a CVT transmission, 146 horsepower. The vehicle weighs 2,936 pounds. The interesting thing, MPGs, 28 in the city, 34 on the highway. Now, if you go with a higher trim that has the turbocharged engine, you're actually getting 20 more horsepower than previously. The upgraded engine, like on the X line, is a 1.6 liter turbo inline four, produces 195 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, and it's now mated to an all-new 8-speed automatic transmission. MPGs for the 1.6 turbo is not as good, of course, as the 2-liter. It's 25 in the city, 27 on the highway. Interesting, though, the way they still give us different engine options based off the trim, because some competitors are not doing that anymore. They're trying to cut costs. But why don't we go ahead, let's fire up this 4-banger and see it move. All right, guys, we are inside this 2024 Kia Seltos S trim. I will be bringing the other trims, I promise. Don't you worry, but I'd like to do the base trims because it's good to know what you get at that lower value price. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, well, Joe, I don't really want one of these for me. It's for my daughter. She is 31 years old. She still lives at home, and she says the only way she'll move out is if I buy her a new car. And I've been doing the math. What it costs me to feed her and the amount of electricity she uses and water, the water bill is ridiculous with her long 5-hour showers. It's actually cheaper for me to just buy this damn thing. How much is it? I feel bad for you. MSRP though, we're gonna get her out, $26,000. Wait until you see what this has. To the door panels. I do like the clean style. The one thing I'm gonna zonk right off the top, even though it is a base, hard plastic along the whole top of the door panel. That to me needs to be rectified right now. You got some gloss black, but you're not really gonna touch it. And then they did a nice job in the center portion of the door panel with soft material, contrast stitching on the armrest, no gloss black by the window switchgear. And they did this funky design on the speaker grill there that I think your daughter's gonna like. Door pocket, good size. You could easily get 5 Mickey D's cheeseburgers in there with extra pickle and a couple of those hot apple pies. Just make sure you don't put the hot apple pie in between your legs before you open it. Now going from the door panel to the dash, knock knock, who's there? It's hard plastic. Good news is though, you're not really touching that. I do like the way they did this funky design with a capital F, but you do have the gloss black. Doesn't bother me too much here though, because guess what you get? Base trim. This is the S trim. You're getting a 10.25 infotainment system screen, full touchscreen capability. It's got all the favorite icons and displays that you like, and it's all nicely configured inside the dash. You put the vehicle into reverse. Backup camera's clear. Not the best, but I've seen worse, trust me. And I like the way that you could change the angles. Ta-da! So when your daughter's backing up, she's not gonna back up into anything. And then we're right back where we started. Working our way down, you got your start-stop button. Standard AC controls, but they did a great job making them look good. You got real knobs in here for the radio. Down below, I'm gonna move the shifter out of the way. You got a nice little tray for 2 PB&Js. I love peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly is what won World War II for us. The GIs were able to keep up their strength. Protein, sugar for the energy, and they were able to win the war. So you could keep 2 PB&Js down there. You have a nice little, sort of like a storage compartment for about 6 Twinkies. 12 volt, don't stick your Twinkie in there, kids. It's gonna zap you. USB-A, USB-C. I like the way they did the style here. Look at it, it's got a little hole right here. Peekaboo. There you go. This is gonna control that IVT. What is it? It's a CVT transmission, but you can get the 8-speed on the higher trims. I'm gonna move this back out of the way for Steven. Drive mode selector knob. I'll show you that when you come to the business end. You do have hill descent control, which is nice. 2 cup holders, good old fashioned e-brake, mechanical e-brake. And then there's your Kia key fob. Looks good. Your daughter will be very happy with that. I like how high the armrest is. It's a very natural position with the stitching. Open it up. You could easily put, I would say, 24 cassette tapes. Plus, you could put a couple pencils in there. Does anybody know what that's for? This is really gonna date my age right now. That's when you would have to like quickly rewind the tapes if they got all messed up. Like you pull them out of the cassette player and it's like a big string of spaghetti. You take your pencil and you go, and then you could get it all tucked back into the cassette tape. The good old days. Seats. I like the way it's got this leather style material. Center is cloth, but on the bolstering, it's leather style. Of course, manual adjustments. Hopefully your daughter won't mess up her manicure or pedicure, whatever the hell she's using to move the seat controls, because they are manual. The one thing I don't get is why did they go with a lighter headliner? I wish I had a darker headliner, so I am gonna zonk that. But why don't you come over to the business end? I want to show you behind the wheel of this Seltos. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel. Now, what's nice is to adjust the seats, they don't have those stupid knobs. I like the way it's just easy handles. So I think your daughter is gonna be okay with this because it's not gonna break any of her nails. I am 6 feet tall. So I don't know how tall your daughter is, but if she's 6 feet tall or less, she's gonna fit just fine in here. Tell her to start packing her bags. You got the leather style material all the way around the wheel. Nice stitching, tasteful horn button, flat black on all the switch gear. It is a manual tilting and telescoping wheel, but another shocker is, look at it, 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster We've been in cars way more expensive than 26 grand that do not have one of these. And I like the way when you go into the different modes, look, bam, sport mode. I hate when that's a zong. I hate when that pops up. Not a big deal, but it just bothers me. Smart mode, if you want to conserve, but we're gonna go back to sport. Love the graphics, love the fonts, nice and clear. But why don't we go ahead? I know your daughter has friends, and I know how important those friends are to her, especially if they're gonna go clubbing or going to the mall and go shopping or whatever. Let's see what kind of room is back there for their friends. All right, guys, backseat time. And it's interesting because this is one of those subcompact crossovers that when it first came out, it was actually sort of on the cusp between a subcompact and a compact. So much so that Hyundai, the sister company to Kia, redesigned the Kona. Remember, we brought that to you, and the Kona is now larger because of this vehicle. Lots of space back here. I think your daughter's friends are going to be just fine. The one thing to point out is that there's this plastic on the backs and there's no pockets. But the great news is that I know that you just bought your daughter that Louis Vuitton purse, you know, it's got her special Tiffany bracelet that's inside it and all that. So the pockets aren't a big deal. What's nice is so that her friends are comfy back here, so their makeup doesn't run all over their face. They do have AC vents, 2 USB-Cs, and they got a place for some Twinkies, which are nice. 2 Twinkies for the 2 friends. Sitting back here is comfy. And remember, this is a base. Nicely padded center armrest with 2 cup holders so that they could take their Frappa Lappa Crappa that they bought at Starbucks and put those 2 bottles there, those 2 cups. But why don't we go ahead? Let's get into the back because we know your daughter loves to shop and she could buy a lot of stuff that she doesn't even need. Let's check out where she's gonna put it. All right, guys, time to get in the cargo area. Now, of course, because this is a base trim, you're gonna have to lift it yourself, but it's not very heavy, I promise. You're gonna be greeted to quite a usable amount of space. What do we have going on here? With the seats up, 24 cubic feet of space. Fold the seats down, 63 cubic feet of space. Now to get the seats to fold down, all you gotta do is pull up on the lever here and just push. I like that, simple. We don't need to have everything so complicated in our lives. Boom, up. The one thing I forgot to do, and it's Steven's fault because he didn't remind me, is adjust the back seat. There we go. Now we have our seats almost completely flat and fat. That's a fat amount of room, P-H-A-T, fat amount of room. Of course, we lift it up. You do have a spare, which is nice, and some room for some boxes of Twinkies back here, at least 6 or 7, maybe even 8. Go for 9, what the hell? You live only once. But nice the way you have a versatile amount of room for a smaller vehicle. But why don't we go ahead? If you're ready, I'm ready. Let me take you for a little spin in this Seltos. All right, guys, we are inside this 2024 Kia Seltos. I wanted to have the camera angle this way because looking out the front just is not going to tell you about the driving experience like I think that you wanna have. It's awesome that a base model has that 10.25-inch infotainment system screen and navigation. A lot of vehicles base do not have that whatsoever. Seats are comfy, supportive, and they actually look pretty darn good. Steering wheel feels nice, and you have your 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster. Everything is so well organized and easy to get to. Lots of good storage space, especially to get to the PB&Js. And you got plenty of room in the back seat and the cargo area. It really checks off a lot of boxes. Fuel economy, obviously Corolla Cross HR-V, they really bring in some strong numbers, but still over 30 mpgs on the highway is definitely nothing to laugh about, that's for sure. But, you know, it's one of those vehicles that, yes, we're not gonna go on throttle and I'm gonna freak out with laughter and it's gonna be this engaging experience. This is more for that A to B situation. Obviously, you have that pesky auto start stop. I'm gonna turn that off with the press of a button. We got a little bit of siren action happening. Hopefully nobody is in too much danger. Thankfully, it's not us, but pulling away, we're gonna go on throttle. On throttle. I tell you, for a naturally aspirated inline four, pretty responsive. You do have simulated shifts with that IVT. That helps it feel less like a CVT transmission, even though it still is. But the CVT does help with those fuel economy numbers, so it's sort of a compromise. I personally would go higher trim, get the all-wheel drive with the turbocharged motor, 195 horsepower, and the 8-speed automatic transmission, which is new for 2024. But going down the road, it's comfy. It's fairly quiet. I mean, you are gonna get the buzz of the inline four that just comes with the territory, but there's not a ton of road noise because you have those smaller wheels, 17-inch wheels, and the wind noise is decent. I mean, like I said, we have to compare apples to apples. I'm not gonna compare this to what a Mercedes-Benz feels like compared to a Kia Seltos base trim. Now, in sport mode, it does have the revs a little bit higher because when you go into sport mode, that's gonna change how the steering feel is, throttle sensitivity, and how the CVT and the engine interacts with one another. All I gotta do is change it to normal, and that drops the revs. We just went from 2,200 to about 1,300. So quite a bit difference, but if you want that quicker response, you wanna have it in sport mode. But as you can see, a lot of that engine noise has died down because the revs have died down. You do have blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, so you have important safety features, even for a base trim. You can hear it beeping and it alerts you with lights and everything. But going over bumps, going over uneven pavement, the suspension does a great job soaking everything up. And it definitely feels like a more expensive vehicle on the inside with all the touches that they have. And I do like the changes that they made to the exterior with the grille, the lighting, things like that. But it's something that I always want to do, is bring you all the trims. And it's nice to finally get into not only a new Seltos, but an S trim. We're gonna make a U-turn, easy peasy. On throttle, here we go. Normal, this is normal mode. Simulated shifts. I tell you, it definitely feels faster than a vehicle that has 146 horsepower. So that's the good news. And it definitely drives very well. It's got a good safety rating, so your daughter is gonna be well protected. And it's got the technology. I mean, that is one of the key parts. But I'm hoping that this has been a good overall review. More sirens, more action happening. We better wrap this one up before it gets even crazier. Here comes more sirens. This is like a 5-alarm thing going right now. But we're gonna get back to Loki Kia. I hope that this has been a good overall review and wrap up this Seltos. I'll see you in a Seltos second. All right, guys, been another great day here at Loki Kia. Definitely got to thank Robert, Danny, and the rest of the crew finally getting us access to a 2024 Kia Seltos. These are hard to track down at the different dealerships. They sell very well, but let me know what you think. Has Kia really perfected the subcompact crossover SUV, especially a base trim with all the goodies that you're getting? Let me know how you feel about it in the comment section compared to the competition. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Raise Rise family. Of course, we can't forget the man wearing his one-piece unitard, Steven, making things happen, making dreams happen for people. Show him some love in the comment section. Thank you, Steven, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.